All right, welcome to the Balanced Hormones Empowered Women podcast. I'm your host, Abby Vallejo, registered dietitian, certified personal trainer, and certified health coach. And what I do is I teach women of all ages how to align their diet, their lifestyle, and their exercise with their hormones in order to unlock their most vibrant health in a feminine-based approach of working harder, working smarter, and not harder. So today I have with me the lovely Holly Tuyls. She is owner and certified holistic coach at Queen of Coins Holistic Money Coaching. So Holly, I just, especially with the holistic aspect of what you do, because that always speaks to me because I'm in the holistic health realm. So when I heard holistic money coaching, I was like, "Ooh, holistic. I love that." So I would love to hear your story. How did you become holistic in the money realm? How did you get started? Like, what is your origin story with your business?
Mm, Thanks, Abby. It is such a pleasure to be here, sitting with you, with you, and sharing space with you today. So thanks so much for having me on your
Oh,
podcast.
absolutely.
My journey with money, well, my business is an offshoot of my own personal transformation with my finances. And that began, well, really in childhood.
Well, I was going to say, as any good business, really, right? I mean, it's born out of something that we have experience in life, and then we master it and we turn it into a business and grow through that. So that makes perfect sense. So yeah, take us back, take me back, tell me about
Mhm.
that.
I love that you said the mastery too, because I still feel like anything worthwhile is layer after layer after layer. And so it's like mastery of one level, and then there's a new level to work with, play in, flow in, wrestle with, be confronted by,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
It's like we're always saying, the layers of the onion, right? Like we're peeling back the layers. Or like I'm often telling people on the healing journey, it's not a linear march up the hill. It's like a spiral and you're going deeper and then you're rising higher and you're going deeper and you're rising higher. So I think that just really, that's the holistic way, right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And honoring every step of that and trusting the process within.
I love
Mhm.
that. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So going
Yes.
back to childhood.
Okay, so I was raised by a fairly traditional mom and dad at home, and my dad was really big on financial literacy. So I grew up hearing you should always earn more than you're spending, which is basic financial literacy 101. And I'm surprised at how many people, and I'm saying this without judgment, but how often I observe people that are not honoring that basic financial principle, right? So even just getting yourself into honoring that one financial principle can bring so much peace and spaciousness
So basically
into.
having more coming in than is going out.
Exactly. That's
Okay.
exactly right. Yeah. And then using the gap to fund your future desires, using the gap to increase your net worth. Um, I didn't mean to go right into
No,
financial
that's okay. No,
literacy
absolutely. And if
basics.
there's
Yeah.
other points of, like basics of financial literacy that, that we may not know, that the listeners may not know, please go ahead and share that. Cause I was already thinking, well, what are the other, what's the basic financial literacy?
Yes, yes. So that was very much, I was steeped in that growing up. And my dad was a big investor, talked about investing, talked about the future, talked about retirement, worked really, 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 really hard as well
Hmm.
to support the family, to
So
support
you
my
go.
mom and the kids, right? And so that is the ethic that was embedded into my beingness. And then I found myself, so I'm very good at working really, really hard and making things hard because the
They often
context.
go hand in hand, don't they? Like, I'm going to work hard and it needs to be hard. So I felt like I worked.
That's exactly right. That's the context, right? I mean, that's been part of this journey too, is like breaking free from the context of that is actually quite a beautiful foundation as well, right? So I then found myself in my 30s in a relationship in which I was being controlled financially. The amount of money I had access to was limited. I got out of my car one day, my daughter and her friend in the back seat. I had promised to take them on an adventure in for ice cream, and I needed gas. And I got out of the car to pump gas and opened my wallet. My debit card was gone, my credit card was gone, and there was no cash. And this felt like I had been punched in the gut.
Like they were taken, like he took them.
It was gone, right? Without
Woo!
my knowing. And I'm out in the world with two young girls and no means of putting gas in my car. And that was the moment that I realized what had been happening. And as I moved through that experience, I was really kind of amazed. How was I raised with money and the importance of managing it well at the forefront to end up in a situation in which I had no power or control over money? How did that happen? Where was the disconnect? Where had I gone astray?
Mm-hmm.
And sitting with that, I began studying from the library, books from the library. I did not have access to financial resources, reading everything I could read about money, blog posts, slowly starting to enact. Like, how often do we read a book like a consumer? Like, it's like we're watching Netflix and just reading through. I had the discipline because of the intensity of my situation.
Well, that had to be really traumatic. I mean, you're out in the world, you have your daughter and her, two young girls who are basically like you're in charge of their well-being, and you're out there and you're left essentially like defenseless. In our modern world,
Yes.
like money is king. You don't have any cash, you don't have your cards. All of a sudden, it's like you're at the mercy of the world around you. Like, what do you do in that moment? That had to have been so traumatic.
It really was. And that fear was there. And then, like I said, mostly just the bigger picture realization. There are layers, right? There's the layer of,
Mhm.
I know I told you girls I was going to take you out for ice cream and now I can't. We actually have to go right home because we can't go anywhere. And then who's going to help me? Where am I going to get money? How am I going to get gas? How am I going to move? And then the bigger fear of, this is my life, and how am I here right now? The shame,
Mhm.
embarrassment, humiliation, and ultimately, like I said, the desire to understand
Mhm.
how I had gotten here. And this was a journey too, Abby, because it started with a lot of blame. Like, you did this,
Yeah.
you took my cards,
Yeah.
you took my money,
Yeah.
you're abusing me,
Mhm.
you're controlling me.
Mhm.
I'm so glad this conversation is going here, because the moment it shifted for me, before I started reading money books,
Yeah.
before I started piecing it together,
Yeah.
was the day I said, I keep showing up
Yeah.
in
Mm.
this relationship.
That's so powerful. I love that you brought that up because I think it's the most natural thing that we do, when we're in a situation like that. We're like, oh my God, you're doing this to me, and, to point fingers. And yes, that's not saying that he wasn't doing something bad. That's terrible. But I think we always, like you said, the way that we become empowered in that situation and start to turn it around is we realize what our own role in that situation is. And the good news is that you realize that you were giving your power away. And when you realize that, you could start to take it back.
Yes, that's right. Take ownership, take responsibility.
Yeah.
And this is so, I don't want to jump too far ahead, but this is key with the money piece. I see it all the time. The economy's bad. My job doesn't pay me enough.
Mm-hmm.
I was raised this way. This is what I learned. This is what I didn't learn. the moment we decide we're going to change our relationship with money, that's the moment money can start showing up for us in a different way.
Oh,
But it
yeah.
really begins with seeing that we are the creators.
Yes. And, bringing it back to relationships, I think such a like huge pivotal moment for me was when I realized like you can have a relationship with money. In fact, you do have a relationship with money. And it's something you helped clue me into this. You're like, well, for example, my relationship with Damien, like I love and nurture him and just love that relationship. And you're like, well, money is a being. You can think of it like a man that you're have a loving relationship with. You have the power to nurture and build and grow that relationship. And that was
Mhm.
such like an aha moment of like, oh my gosh, wow, I didn't realize that I had the power in this and I actually have a direct relationship with money as if it was like a being, like a
Yeah.
living being.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. The relationship piece is huge. And I think that's what fascinates me about money most is it's something that every single one of us is touching and using every single day.
Mhm.
And yet, it's not something that every single one of us is actively maintaining in terms of a relationship. It tends to be more reactive
Yep.
or again more disempowering rather than this idea like if you want to have a healthy and thriving relationship with money, you get to have that,
Yeah.
and it
Yes.
starts with you deciding that and
Yes,
then
that you have
acting in
that power.
accordance.
Like all you have to do is say, I choose to have this. And guess what? You get to have that. Like that.
Yes.
Oh, I love that because I think so often we just cut ourselves off because we just don't even realize that we have that power to make that decision because maybe, most of us weren't raised that way. Or even if we did have money, it was well, you got to work really hard and it's going to be tough. And, you might be able to convince someone that you're worth it, but it's going to be a job, so stepping
Mm-hmm.
back from that, that's well intentioned. I completely get it, and that's, hard work. Of course, that's worked for a lot of people, but here we're bringing in the feminine aspect of it, right? Because that's more the masculine is and I'd love for you to speak more on this, like the masculine and the action and the doing versus the feminine and the embodying. So can you talk to us a little bit more about like the balance of like masculine and feminine and how that relates to money?
Yeah, I'd love to. I see this in the energetic realm of money. So you'd asked earlier in terms of like a definition of holistic money. I think a healthy relationship with money, mm, I don't like using the word requires, invites us into nurturing all of the realms of the holistic model, which to me, defined by me, is the physical realm, the emotional realm, the mental realm, the energetic realm, and the spiritual realm. So a lot of people come to me saying, I need a budget. I need to make more money. I need to pay off my debt. I want to save more. Those are all in the physical realm.
Mhm.
And absolutely, the physical, if money is a physical entity, we
Mhm.
touch it, right? Especially if you still use cash,
Mhm.
like you get to feel it and have like a sensory experience with it in that exchange. And all these other realms are connected with money and upholding money as well.
I love that. Can you repeat the other ones again? Because I just really want to like that to sink in for people. It's not just the physical realm, which is important and true, but all these other realms also exist. So what are the other realms that are just as important for money?
Yeah, and I'd almost say like the invisible realms, the intangible realms are the most important. And they are what the physical realm is how you can kind of measure where you're at.
What's
Like
going on in those
you get
other
to
realms?
see,
Yeah,
yes, the tangible result of this intangible process. So
I
the way
love
you, your thoughts, the mental space, i.e., the way you think about money,
that. Hmm.
the stories you have about money, your beliefs around money, excuse me. And we all have stories about money. Often these originated in childhood. Money doesn't grow on trees. You hit on you have to work hard for money. Rich people are greedy, selfish. Poor people are lazy, unmotivated.
or maybe even virtuous, right? Like there's that feeling of like,
Yeah.
oh, it's, it's virtuous to be poor and want nothing.
Right, right.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so many of us have grown up with those and those beliefs that get taken in childhood when our brain is like a sponge. I mean, so often we don't even stop to question. And I always liken it to an iceberg, right? The conscious and
Mm,
the subconscious. There's that little tip above the surface, which is the conscious, and then everything underneath that big, huge Titanic size iceberg that's underneath. That's the subconscious that's running the show behind the scenes, but we're not really aware of it. So when we grew up and we heard, when we were little, money doesn't grow on trees, getting money is hard, maybe rich people are bad, kind of things like that. That gets programmed in, and we're
mhm.
still running off that same programming, even, many years or decades later. If we've never stopped to re-examine and reprogram that, you're still running on old programming. And I,
Right.
I love, I love that you brought that up because that when you become aware of that, you can start to change it. You can change your programming.
Yeah.
And that's just, oh, that's just such a revelation. Yes, talk to me more about that. Love it.
Yeah. Okay. And I'm holding all of these threads we've got going here too,
Okay.
Abby, just so you
Yes.
know. But I want to, like, for me, the huge one, I've already given you a little backstory of my childhood. Like, my dad did me such an incredible service by what he taught me consciously, the conscious mind being masculine, as long as we're like getting into this, the
Mm-hmm.
subconscious being the feminine, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so consciously, he taught me beautiful lessons. Subconsciously, I'm watching the sponge that I am, as you mentioned, and what I'm seeing is my dad managing, controlling, making decisions about money,
Mm-hmm.
and my mom not.
Yeah. And I
And
think so
he's a
often,
man
yep, money, I was going to say money is so masculine, right? So,
and
how
she's a
much of,
woman. So
yes.
yeah, so my belief where I find myself, the physical evidence of my wallet is empty by my domestic partner
Mm-hmm.
is the again the evidence of the subconscious belief that men get to be in charge of money and
Mm-hmm.
I don't because I'm a woman.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I know I've definitely had that as well. And that was like a big realization that I had when I, quit my past corporate job. I just kind of came to this realization of like, these men are always going to have a glass ceiling above me. And not all men, of course, but just in that particular situation, those men who were in charge, they had me completely believing that I was only worth what they were willing to pay for me, and I would never be worth more than that, and that they had every right to determine that about me forever, and that I had no right to even question that, and that they would, kind of allude to the fact that I was being aggressive, if I even started to question that. I remember a few times going into a meeting, just asking some kind of innocent questions and just being met with this, like, absolutely not. So, yeah, I think so. Then I was like, okay, you know what? I don't want that glass ceiling above me anymore. I don't want to have that middleman, that man deciding that he gets to decide what my worth is and I don't get to decide it for myself. So I think that was like a big turning point for me. So I just kind of wanted to like insert
Mm.
that.
Yeah. And when we start to shift those beliefs, this is what I was speaking to earlier before we were on the call. Like for me, it started with healing my relationship with money, and then it moved into healing my relationship with men, which includes beliefs like men are providers and men are protectors and men are here to help me. And and this was all because then once I can see the evidence of my beliefs and decide that I get to change them. And in doing so, change my whole reality. Then the opportunities are endless, right?
Oh,
Then we
yeah.
are really seated in our creational power as women on the planet of what we believe is what we birth, as one of my
Oh,
teachers would
absolutely.
say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And going back to that dynamic of masculine and feminine, right? Like we as women, we are creation. We are creators. We are creation. And it's not just bringing babies into the world, but we have that creator, that nurturing energy. That's naturally who and how we are.
Mm.
So, Let's dive into that a little bit more of like connecting with that. And I'm always talking about embodiment, because I think
Mm,
so often in our society, it's the mind and it's like, no, 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 do, to know, to do. But then what about
mm.
like to feel and to embody, right? Like, how do we bring that in?
Yeah, I love this is such a great question, Abby, and it's still in line with like I'm holding these other threads, right? So we touched on the mental realm, so now we're touching in the emotional realm of finances, right? And so our feelings are our truth in the moment. And so being connected with our feelings, being able to feel our feelings,
Yes.
even
Yes.
if when we're just learning, the feeling might be numb or
Mm-hmm.
blankness,
Mm-hmm.
right? But like really connecting moment by moment with what we are feeling
Mm-hmm.
and then being able to identify them for ourselves. And then once we're identifying them, we get to cherish our own feelings. Like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I feel sadness. So I'm going to cry. I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to lie down in bed. I'm going to get in the tub and cry. I'm going to take a walk in the woods
Yeah.
and cry.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Because right, because feeling your feelings, feeling your emotions, that's going to put you in touch with your body, right? Is that one of the
Mhm.
fastest way to get back out of your head and back into your body is to let yourself feel an emotion and experience it, right?
Yes, that's exactly right, Abby. And then that's the truth of that's our embodied truth. Our feelings are our embodied truth moment by moment. And what I see the connection of money being is that if we are not taking the time to learn how to feel ourselves, mm, we're relying on past programming or past behaviors. We're afraid of the feeling. We're afraid of descending into the body. It's safer
Mhm.
in the mind. It's
Yeah.
safer to analyze. It's safer to label. It's safer to stay in judgment
Yeah.
in the story. Coming down can feel scary,
Yes.
and the need to do this is where overspending most of the time comes in. I feel a discomfort, I feel a feeling I don't want to feel, and all I have to do is click it away,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and then I get a dopamine hit and I
Yeah.
get uplifted and I don't have to
And I was able to avoid
descend.
having to feel that feeling, right? Yeah, because I feel like safety, I mean, and I'm always saying this in the realm of health as well, like your body's main priority is to always feel safe and your mind's
Yeah.
main priority is to always feel safe.
Yes.
Survival and safety are the two biggest things. So I think that our mind tries to protect us at any and every cost feelings of discomfort because we can't necessarily differentiate between a thought that makes me feel afraid or uncomfortable and an actual situation, right? Our nervous system is going to
Mhm.
interpret it the same way whether I'm thinking about some situation where my life is in danger, I'm actually experiencing it, I'm going to be releasing the same stress chemistry in my body. My nervous
Mhm.
system doesn't actually know the difference.
Mhm.
So, getting back in tune with our body, allowing ourselves to actually feel safe, to feel those emotions that we need to feel that can feel really uncomfortable in the moment. But in my experience, if you let yourself really just give yourself permission to feel something uncomfortable, it usually doesn't last very long. I mean,
Mhm.
even just minutes, if
I
you
think
just
they
like
say 90 seconds if
yes,
you
if
just
you like let
allow it.
yourself
Yeah.
have that good cry instead of pretending it's not there, just it's kind of like, when you're swimming in the ocean and you're walking in and the waves are hitting you, and if you just dive into it, you come out on the other side rather than being like knocked all over. I always kind of give myself that analogy with emotions like, okay, this is uncomfortable. I don't really like this. I'm gonna dive into it because in like 90 seconds, I'm gonna feel that much better, right?
Yes, right. And I love that you're saying that, like the continuous knocking, and I just will bring that back to money and this idea of like using spending to avoid our feelings, because then oftentimes what's happening is like the negative feelings are being compounded. Like the
Mm.
shame comes up, we don't want to feel the shame, we purchase something, we're spending more money than we're earning, we're spending money on in a way that's not in alignment with our vision for our future, our values, with where we want to go, with who we say we are. And so all of this is out of alignment, and then it's creating more shame or more fear, more stress. And then it comes up again. And then the cycle of bam, 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 just getting
Mhm.
knocked by the waves perpetuates rather than, and I think this is just a great analogy for the work of money, of like, dive in, let's
Dive in.
go, let's get to the bottom of this,
Mhm,
right? And it's
mhm.
a process.
Yeah, someone told me once that if you feel like a charge around something, like an emotional charge, that's what you need to focus on. And I
Yes.
feel like that's exactly what you were saying is, if something feels charged, examine it, right?
Yes,
Would you
that's
say?
exactly right. Yes. And I've
Yeah.
been deep in this work recently too. I feel like the triggers, regardless of what they're around, they're pointing us to a truth that's
Yes.
underneath that trigger.
Yes. I
And
love that you brought that up.
yeah, so it's such
Mhm,
a gift. Like
mhm.
it, like mentioning the nervous system, like none of us want to be triggered, or I think we do a certain amount of work on ourselves, personal development or therapy. I've done a lot of brain spotting, which is like a trauma processing modality. And then we think that we should no longer be feeling triggered, or that we're
Never again.
above
I'm just never going to
triggers.
be triggered again.
Right.
Absolutely.
And then saying that though, is then I'm never going to be gifted with deeper awareness about myself again.
Yes. Yeah. Or taken to the next level, right? Because it's like,
Yes.
what is this trying to tell me? What does this trigger? And, I can tie this back to health too, because people will come in and they'll be having a symptom, which I completely understand is uncomfortable. And they're like, I want to get rid of this symptom. The symptom
Mm,
is the problem. And I'm
yeah.
like, well, you know what? There's always a root cause underlying that symptom. We're looking downstream. What we need to do is look upstream and identify what's going on upstream that's causing those problems downstream. So that sounds like the same type of thing.
Yes. Ever since we came into each other's sphere, I have felt so much resonance and alignment with the way that we're working. Like we've got the body or the
Mhm.
bank account that is showing you the symptom. And so people say to me, I need a budget. That's all, like, I need a budget.
Yeah.
And it's like, hold on, slow down. I have transformed my entire financial reality. I have paid off over $70,000 in student loans and taught myself how to invest and increased my net worth over the amount that it used to be negative is now positive, and I've never once used a budget. There are
Oh, I'm
right.
so glad you said that because, like, I'm horrible with budgets. I don't have one. It's just kind of something that I'm like, that's too stressful. I'm not gonna think about it,
It's
So I'm
so
glad you said that.
finicky and it's so like nitpicky to me. And it just, that said, and this goes back into the masculine feminine. So now, so I address physical, mental, emotional. Now I'm going to talk about energetics. We do need structure. We need the masculine elements and the feminine elements. So the masculine elements being the structure, the system, the focus, the action. So this, I get a little bit in a kerfluffle around like, oh, I'm manifesting such and such. And it's like, okay, like, and what are you doing? Like, well,
Right.
I'm
Because it's usually the
manifesting.
first thing that we ask ourselves, right? Is when we have a desire, we're like, well, what are you gonna do about it? And, I'm almost wondering if we're going about it in the wrong order. Should the feminine come first before the masculine? Like, you know, the embodiment comes before the action, right? Would you
Mm.
say?
Yeah, well, and I think you hit it. I think that we're speaking the same thing. So the desire is the feminine, and the feminine did come first. And so
Mhm.
then it's like, and then what are you going to do about it? Like,
Mhm.
what masculine support, action, structure do I now? I need my masculine. Like,
Mhm.
what am I going to do about it?
We
And
need both.
then from that place, yeah. And to me, it's just this beautiful dance and this beautiful interplay of feeling, again, just coming into that feeling space. This is where the feminine is going first, and feeling what is the next step, feeling into where we're taking ourselves. The masculine part too is that vision, like,
Mhm.
where am I taking myself?
Mhm.
That needs to be
Yeah, like leading
clear.
myself.
And
Yeah.
then the feminine is like, can flow her way there. And maybe we get taken, we decide. So I did this, I think with my college degree, I had dropped out of college. I had a big scholarship after high school and dropped out within the first year. And so there was this piece of me that still felt a certain level of like embarrassment around that, or like I needed to prove that I could pursue and achieve my degree. And so I pushed myself into that degree and then realized this isn't really where I want to be. Now,
Yeah.
is that a mistake? For a while, I saw it as such, especially when I was deep into paying off that debt. And really, again, that was my masculine, delivering pizzas on the weekend, taking my tax return and putting it entirely toward that, while some of my friends were leaving the country and going on a vacation with their tax return, right? But this focused efforting, this is what I want to pay this off. So in certain moments, that degree felt like such a mistake. Now, having worked through, here's another element, feminine element of finances and financial health, I've worked through the forgiveness piece around that,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
saw what it gave me, this beautiful ability to articulate eloquently. I was an English major and also studying teaching. Now I teach people about money and can communicate well, can write really well.
Love how you tied that back in. Like it ended up serving you. It's like you
Yes,
knew on some level that you needed to do that because it was going to help, help you along your journey, be a better teacher and be who you are. But, I'm sure in the moment, in the thick of it, you're probably like, oh, why did I do that? Like,
right.
just wasted all this time and money, but ultimately was not. I love how you like remarried that back together.
This is, I'll just throw this out here too for the listeners, in terms of like financial literacy, or like what is a money mistake that you've made, and write it out and acknowledge your feelings around it, acknowledge that you felt it was a mistake, and be with that. Don't rush yourself out of that, just sit with that. And when you're ready to release, maybe have a cry or write it on a piece of paper and tear it up and throw it in the garbage, or find a way to feel complete in the releasing. And then sit and name the gifts,
Mm,
name what you've received. I I continue to make, like, the game of money is trusting yourself enough to make money moves. And I continue to make mistakes with money, but I have developed such a massive capacity to trust my journey
I
and
love that you
trust
reaffirm that.
myself. Yes.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. We need to be able to trust it. Yeah, talk more about that. We need to be able to trust ourselves.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And again, I think we've been kind of dancing around this, that this is an inside job. My health is an inside job, money is an inside job, right? And so the trust piece, and we develop trust through taking actions and through sometimes making mistakes, sometimes making investments that didn't pan out the way we thought they would, and then taking the time to, again, sit with that, be in a process around that, acknowledge yourself, work yourself through that, um, and
Yeah.
celebrate the wins.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah, because I was gonna say before, even in the most dark of situations, even in the worst traumas out there, there is always a gift that comes, and so allowing ourselves to see that and, receive that
mm,
gift.
the reception is the feminine aspect of the money energetic. So I receiving support, accepting support, receiving money. So many women that I encounter struggle to receive a compliment and then say like, well, I want $1 million. It's like, well, you can't even
You
receive.
can't even take a compliment. Like, how are you going to receive money? That's such a good point. Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up because I thought, receiving and maybe worthiness are
Mm,
seeming to be like two big, huge barriers, like feeling unworthy of receiving or not being able to
mm,
receive because I mean, how many of us think, well, I'm just not good enough kind of thing, or have that
mm,
underlying, subconscious belief. I know for sure that's something that, that I've dealt with and, still continue to deal with. Yeah,
mhm.
the worthiness.
And receiving, opening to receive is an act of vulnerability and softening. And I think
Mm,
that we've really armored ourselves against the world, against our pain,
mhm.
against trauma, against
Yeah. And then
men.
the whole like societal thing of like, well, I'm not taking a handout, like,
Right.
yeah.
The independent. I'm a strong independent woman.
Yes.
I don't
Yes.
need
I
right.
don't need anyone. I don't need a man. I
Mhm.
don't need anyone. I'm just an island because I'm a strong independent woman, but, something is missing there.
Right. Right. And that's the feeling piece as well. Like that's that armoring. We're armoring ourselves up from life. We think we're armoring ourselves up from what might hurt us,
Mhm.
or but what we're doing is we're armoring ourselves up from life. We're not feeling our feelings. We're not allowing ourselves to be kind of worked over by life
Mhm.
itself
Mhm.
in service of our highest expression,
Yeah.
of which money can help us actualize and realize.
Yeah.
And like for me, it feels like is the avenue through which I personally do that, right? Like, so going back to the beginning of my origin story, it's like this was just my journey to be on for myself personally.
Mhm.
And as I'm doing it, I am activating the people, primarily women around me,
Mhm.
into whether it's like, it doesn't have to be your passion, can stay health, and I can help you with the money because the money is mine
Mhm.
to move through and to wrestle with and to open to and learn about and play with and frolic with and argue with.
Like like a person that you'd have a relationship with. Like I just
Yeah.
keep coming back to that in my head, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
So let's move if we can, Abby, like because we're working through this, like it was one of your requests. So like then the spiritual component, this is like the opening up to life itself. And like again, we say we want all this money, but if we can't soften and open to receive the things that life is bringing us, like we don't get to say I'm going to stay armored and protective and independent
Mhm.
and not ask for help and figure this all out on my
Mhm.
own. And I also want to receive all of life's greatest blessings from and
Mhm.
lessons,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's
And
like
like we
it's
can't
like
filter it.
ordering a package and not giving them your address and then never checking your doorstep to see if anything was delivered.
Right. That's such a beautiful analogy for that. That's exactly right. Or I or saying you want something and then you cannot even recognize it when it shows up because you're not open. So this is where I think our desires, being in touch with our desires, come into play. And for me, this journey started with healing my relationship with money, and then healing my relationship with men, and then just as a natural, like the money and to the men was this natural extension and opening, and then the men into God was this natural extension and opening. And a few years ago I would not even use that word. I would say universe, source, great spirit. Someone would say they were praying for me and I would take offense.
Mhm.
Again, close to a gift that someone is offering me.
Mhm.
And now I see all of this as an interplay of my relationship with God.
Mm.
And in my business, this doesn't mean I only work with Christian women, and I don't even I have a deep relationship with God. I was raised Lutheran, I was raised Christian. I still feel a little uncomfortable with Christian, like a label. I read the
Mhm.
Bible, I'm
Mhm.
open to God, I'm open to receiving from God and seeing myself as a daughter of God, here to spread light, do God's work in the world, which is abundance and is everyone being provided for, everyone having what they need.
Mhm.
Um, Clarity, peace, love.
Yeah. So money flowing to you and through you serves a divine purpose then. We can think of it that
Yes.
way.
I
Yeah.
love that you said that. Thank you. That was a beautiful way of putting that, and probably much more succinctly than I was going to.
Thank you. No, that's just how it came to me. Like, wow, like me just, wanting to receive abundance, it's not even selfish or bad. I'm literally like helping to fulfill my divine purpose of being
Yes,
here.
exactly. For myself and for the people around me. And so that I can be a channel of light in the world.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. And because I want to say, like, because then I can support like community causes and support the things that are meaningful to me. And that's such a huge part of the spiritual aspect of the money. Oftentimes I teach that as gratitude and generosity are like the spiritual realms.
Mhm.
And a lot of times that doesn't make sense to people because they're like, I'm struggling with what money. What do you mean I should give some of it away? So
Mhm.
because that's the law.
Mhm.
That's the
Yeah.
law. It's
Well, it's
how
like
it
you
works.
you have to open your hand to be able to receive something back, right? So that's kind of what you're
Yes.
saying is like be brave enough and trust enough to open your hand and give, and in giving you shall receive, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. But give not to receive, give to give. And then what you're receiving, you're exactly right, right? Because then what you're receiving is an experience of yourself in abundance. If I'm giving someone $5, like I'm experiencing myself as someone who has $5, $10, $100 to give. And yeah, that feels good. I mean, then we're going into like philosophy 101, like
Mhm.
is there any such thing as altruism, because it just
Right.
feels good to
Yeah,
bless up
absolutely.
other people. And there's some nuance there because it can turn into like, the unworthiness wound, or like the deflecting, or feeling like you shouldn't, like some of these stories from childhood, like you shouldn't have all this money when other people
Yeah.
don't. But
Yeah.
I'm a big proponent of like giving from overflow. I fill myself first. And the
Mhm.
more fulfilled I am in my own desires, the more I am
The more you have to
overflowing.
give.
And
Yeah.
oftentimes for me on the day to day, what that ends up being is people loving to be in my energy, strangers commenting me on how good it feels to be around me because I'm not tight, I'm
Mhm.
not rushed, I'm not hard, I
Yeah.
am open and soft because of this work with money. So I didn't give them any money, I gave them an experience
Mhm.
of feeling me.
Mhm. Yeah, and that just makes me think back to like money being a reflection, right? Like, or
Mhm.
how you are giving and receiving, or that flow in your life. Like maybe money is kind of a mirror for how much you're doing that and allowing that to happen.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I think that's exactly right. And it's the circuitry too. There's a circuitry to it. And so I think this is a fun kind of practice too, like to just notice, are you more likely to like giving it out, giving it out, giving it out, which could be like overspending too, not just like generously like blessing others, but um or are you more likely to like hold it and hoard it tightly? So I know people who have, like, it would seem that the people who are drawn to working with me are people who don't have a lot of money and are trying to get more money or be
Mhm.
more empowered with money or feel more powerful with it. Um, Ultimately, there are people with a lot of money who don't feel safe, who are afraid, who are tight. And so the remembering that this is, I mean, it's, we circulate money. That's the
Mhm.
word, right? It's
Mhm.
in circulation.
Mhm.
There's a lot of like water terms connected with money, like liquidity, for example. We say like financial flow, money's flowing in. Um, and so this idea of like keeping it moving and that's like the feminine part of it too, because there's also equally as important is like the containment, which is the
Mhm.
more masculine
Mhm.
energetic of like holding it, being able to hold it
Mhm.
and then grow it.
Mhm.
So yeah, there's all these pieces to play with. And I always tell my clients, like, let's start with what feels the best and
Yeah.
the yummiest.
Yeah.
And let's start with what feels the hardest and you have the most resistance around and you
I
don't
love
want to
that.
deal with it and you don't. Let's start with both of those.
Going back to just diving right in, but then also like acknowledging what you are doing right and what feels exciting. I love that. I love that holistic approach. That is awesome.
Yeah. And I can't, it's probably how you see health too, Abby. Like I really can't conceptualize doing it in any other way.
Oh yeah, once you go holistic, you don't go back because
Mhm.
it just changes your worldview. Like you said, like learning about those, those five different things. Now I won't be able to just see money as just like a physical thing because I know all these, the emotional, the spiritual, those all those other, things that you talked about. I'm like, "Oh, that makes perfect sense."
Mhm.
Like I just can't go back to just seeing it as a purely physical thing. So I completely understand what you're saying about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
beautiful. So
Mhm.
is there anything else you want to touch on or any advice you'd want to give? And either to if you could talk to your younger self, if you could
Mm.
talk to the woman who had her daughter and her friend in the car and opened her wallet and found that she didn't have any cash and cards left, or a woman that story might have resonated being in a similar situation, like what advice would you give? What would you tell them?
Mm. It's all you.
Yes. You have more power than you have ever realized, honey. It is all you.
It feels confronting to say that, and I think like if you were like a one-on-one client working with me, I do have I think my daughter, I have a 23-year-old daughter. I homeschooled her. She experiences a disability, so I'm accustomed to being a very gentle
Yes.
guide, and my daughter will resist anything like intent. My daughter is just like will shut
Mhm.
down and just no.
Mhm.
But yeah, ultimately, what I'm communicating in the most gentle of ways is this is what I love about coaching as well and being a certified holistic coach. Um, I think this is really important to touch on actually, because I think people have this view of coaching as it's me telling you what to do.
Mhm.
And that's the consulting and teaching piece. There, because I work in money, I'm sure you feel like this in health too. I can't purely coach because there are laws, rules, there's structures that need to be upheld,
Mhm.
that like we live in a physical world and we're working with something in the physical, like
Mhm.
we have to follow physical law
Yeah.
or financial law, right? And um, I'm sorry, I just got distracted. I'm hearing my garage door open. And um, I'm losing it.
That's okay. It'll come back to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Abby. But like the the idea of like obeying the coaching, right? So that's where teaching and consulting comes in. This is how money works. These are the rules of the game. You want to play, you want to win at the game of money, you've got to learn the rules. Now, sometimes I break my own rules, right? That's another conversation. But I know I'm breaking the rule. I'm
Mhm.
not on it. I'm intentionally
Yeah.
knowing that I'm
Yeah.
going to break the rule. I'm not breaking the rule because I don't know it exists and
Yeah.
then being like, what's happening? Why is this off?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the coaching piece is so powerful because a trained and skilled coach will continuously direct you back to yourself,
Yes.
your
Yeah.
own process, your own truth, your own needs, what's arising for you, your own awareness.
Mhm.
And that's another part, in addition to the holistic layer, like the coaching and the consulting with money is just mwah, chef's
Yeah.
kiss perfection,
Yeah.
because it really is. The way I play in the realm of money is not going to be in the way you play in the realm of money. And we really want to find what is yours, what feels good for you.
Yep.
So this all goes back to maybe the question about what I would tell my younger self. And that's like, jump in. Let's
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's get in here.
Yeah.
Can
It's a
you
play
do
the
it
game.
by yourself? Yes, I did over the course of many years, thousands of books, podcasts, blog posts,
Mhm.
actions, mistakes,
Mhm.
years. Or you can make an investment
Yep.
and come right in, do a deep dive, and let's just get it sorted. I always like to think of like the building a house analogy, like clear away the space,
Mhm.
level the space,
Mhm.
build the foundation,
Yeah. Yeah.
build the frame,
Yeah. You want it to be
solidify, strengthen, and then comes the fun
the
part.
fun part of like designing and decorating and
Yes.
bringing in the beautiful things and making it a
Tapping into our
home.
desires. What are we creating here? How do we want it to feel? How does our day-to-day life look? And how can we design this to support us in our day-to-day life? Who do we want to bless up with this creation? Like, who
Mhm.
are we inviting in, or what are we making and sharing with others from this space, right? So, mm, like, and we all have our own, right? We all have our own little space that we're building.
I love how balanced that is. And I love how you have like all, you have the structure and then bringing in, the beauty and the fun part. But I love how you have like, it sounds like you have a really solid like process and pathway, but at the same time, giving the person space to be who they are and embody, what's coming up for them. And that sounds just like such a beautiful way to like lead someone, because you're not leading someone away from who they are. You're leading them
Right.
back to who they really are. So this sounds like, healing on such a deeper level than even just finances alone, right?
Yeah. Oh my, so many of my clients say that, like, I thought this was going to be about money, and it is about so much more than money. And like the way people's relationships shift, like in
Yeah.
relationships and
Yeah.
friendships shift, the relationship they have with themselves, the relationship they have with their younger selves, them starting to build a relationship with their future self and
Hmm.
create her intentionally.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love it
Yeah.
all too.
Like
And it's
I thought I just wanted a budget, but now we're talking about men and relationships and God and spirituality, and I'm getting a vision for my future self and like healing my inner child. I love it because it's just all interconnected.
yeah, it really is. It really is. And it all supports, everything supports everything else
Mhm.
too. So it's not these disparate, like I always think like we break it down into these separate parts while
Mhm.
remembering they're really all just one.
Oh my gosh, that just goes right back to the body. Of course, I'm bringing it back to the realm I feel comfortable in, but it's like, modern medicine. each body system has like a different type of doctor, and it's like you go in and you're talking about, your heart, and they act like there's, it's not connected to the rest of your body, right? Like we're
Right.
just going to hone in on this one little part, and we're only going to treat that, and we're kind of going to forget in the process that you are a full being and everything is connected. So
Right.
that to me sounds like the exact same type of thing, like honing in on one little part when really you are a full being, you are a full woman.
Yes. I
Yeah.
love that.
So you work
I
on the full woman.
right. Yes. Right.
I
And
love
like there
that.
is value in looking at the disparate parts, but honestly, I think it's damaging when we only look at the disparate parts without seeing it as part of the larger piece.
Mhm.
And like again, the similarity between our realms, like for you, it's like genetics and childhood potentially, and same, like this hasn't come up yet and it feels like we're like winding toward completion, but like for all of us, especially as women, 2 years before I was born, my mom could not even legally have her own bank account.
Oh,
Right. And so this epigenetic inheritance, and I
yes.
see women because they're successful and intelligent, and
Mhm.
then experiencing a sense of shame that they're not farther along financially, or that they don't know more about how money works. They're not making the moves,
Mhm.
and then feeling a sense of shame about it when really we have not had that modeled to us. The idea of women being powerful with money in the world is brand new.
Brand new. Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, think about all the, potential generational wounding that, maybe just like epigenetics, diseases or conditions, potential for that, that have been passed down. And then epigenetics being, we get to decide if we're going to continue living that lifestyle and therefore probably manifest, condition X. How many of those things are going on with money, right? Things that are from our ancestors, our grandmothers, or, further back. What kind of money stories were passed down in our family? And now what are we doing with these stories now?
That's exactly right. And we get to heal them for ourselves, for our children, and for, of course, our ancestors too, in an honor of them.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Because then when you heal the line, you're healing everyone on in either direction, right? Those that will come
Mhm.
after, but also for your ancestors in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
That's
think that's really powerful, especially if like your flavor of like money misalignment is like avoidance, is like we get to do this.
mm-hmm.
Our grandmothers didn't even get to
Yeah.
think about this. I think about this with like healing in general and like the nervous system. Like our parents didn't have this vocabulary to explain like the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous
Right.
system
Right.
and
We didn't even have those
activation.
words.
Right, right. And
Mhm.
polyvagal theory, right? They
Mhm.
were living in these experiences without the framework. And
Mhm.
so I feel like it is our, I don't like using words like obligation or duty, but definitely responsibility, I think
Yeah.
feels like a good word.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
our responsibility to take what we have access to
Mhm.
and come into our fullest expression through
Oh, yes. I it. That. Yes. Coming
it.
into our fullest expression. That's beautiful. That is
I think
beautiful.
ultimately that's what the money work and maybe your work
Yeah.
too, Abby,
Yeah.
is really
Right.
about.
With health, right? I mean, ultimately, it's being who we are and living in our fullest expression and being fully embodied. That's what I'm always saying. I want
Mhm.
to be a woman fully embodied, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that.
And that's
I
that
love that.
common thread between what you do and what I do. Really, at the end of the day, we're working towards the same goal. It's just being that fully embodied woman.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I
hmm
love it.
hmm
Beautiful. Oh
And
my gosh,
then and
beautiful.
then we get to be the work, right? Like the work, like it's just right here. And that feels really good to me. Like that's to me like living in alignment with my truth.
Love it. Love
hmm
it so much. So
Yeah.
tell me, where can people find you? How can people work with you?
Great question. I am most active on Facebook, Queen of Coins Holistic Money Coaching. I have a Facebook page for my business. Holly Tuyls, Tuyls. I'm always open to receiving friend requests. I post a lot about my business on Facebook. Is like my primary social where I'm active. I have www.queenofcoinscoaching.com. I have a nice free resource there that will pop up as soon as you go to my website. 11 ways to feel good about money right now.
Ooh, nice.
So, yeah, so anyone can go there, just enter in their name and their email and get that right away. Some of it is like the energetic or the mindset shift. Some of it is like, do this, take this step. So that's a nice printable. 11 feels accessible to me. And the idea of like having something like that up on your refrigerator and just maybe going through one thing per week. Anyone desiring to take the work deeper, my entry level program right now is my 4-month holistic money group program called Intentional and Aligned. That's starting on September 10th and running through. The primary program will be over 2 weeks before Christmas, and then we'll have one acknowledgement, celebration, and completion call on January 7th. So that's a 4-month program. I've designed that specifically according to International Coaching Federation guidelines for long-term sustainable financial transformation. And that begins September 10th. The investment for that is $900. Anyone can reach out to me via Facebook or email. I can send more information. So like the format, the dates are already set, the times, the format of how the program runs. I have several incredible women in the space already, and I'm just really excited to serve people. Tend to make people have really big results before the program is even over, almost to like a surprising and miraculous degree. But I've been doing this work for 5 years now almost. So it's like, it is surprising and miraculous. And it's like, yeah, this is what happens when we show up and like and dig in. And then always accepting, I shouldn't say always, but right now I have openings for one-on-one clients as well. Intentional and aligned is a framework. We move through all 5 of the holistic realms in a really systematic way. Every month I have action steps. We have a co-working space. So that's a structured class. Like I could really call that like everything I want you to know about holistic money, everything you need to know about holistic money over the course of 4 months, where working with me one-on-one is like more client led. Like my group program is led by me and there's coaching within it. Hiring me as your one-on-one coach is more like, what are your goals? What are we working on here? What is it that you want to achieve at the end of our 3-month commitment together? Where do you want to be and how are we going to get you there? And then it's my opportunity through coaching to like kind of be like, I think this could be a mindset thing here, or like let's like move into let's like work with the emotions here. The emotional work, it sounds so easy, like just feel your feelings, but I myself can still fall into this like, we're talking a story, we're talking our thoughts, we're not feeling the feelings. Anyway, I don't mean to get all back into that, but
Oh yeah, no, I'm glad you said that though. You have to feel the feeling, not just think about it.
right, and not just say that you're feeling the feeling, like
Yeah, you
feel
have to
yeah.
let
So
yourself feel it. And that's where those like physical responses cue you in that you're feeling it. Are you breathing differently? Did you start crying? Did you get goosebumps? Did you get some type of like physical reaction? And that's how you know that you are present in your body.
right, right. I felt like I needed to mention that because it's like, why would I hire you for 3 months for you to say feel your feelings? And you're like, okay, I felt them. Now,
But I think, we don't know what we don't know, and we don't know our blind spots. So
right,
so often it's it seems really straightforward when we talk about this, but when it's just like me sitting here by myself, I can't see that whole iceberg that's under the water. So that's where you can come in and, you've been doing this, you have the experience, you have the framework. So you can lead me to help me discover what's in
Mhm.
here that I need to work on so that I can remove those money blocks and heal and thrive. And that's where it's so valuable to have a qualified coach, because that's what you do, is you lead us back to who we really are around those blind spots that we might have not seen otherwise, right?
Right. That's exactly right. And I continue to receive coaching myself, and it is invaluable to me in terms of my own blind spots too. So, yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're a
So,
living, breathing example of this type of embodiment, and you're showing
mhm.
other women how to do that as well.
That's exactly right. And
Love it.
we deserve support. This is like the worthiness thing too. We deserve things to be easy. We deserve to like have a way shower. We deserve to have support as we find our own way.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think that's such a feminine principle too, is like the community aspect, the women learning from other women. Like that's something that's very natural and inherent to us. Yet in this modern, I'm an island, I can do everything on my own, just work, work, work. We've kind of lost touch with that. And I think that's why so many women are kind of perishing and feeling unfulfilled and maybe overworked and overstressed, because we've forgotten that there's this natural network of other women, of other healers of different types that are there for us, so it's like connecting back into that. And I think that's why you and I connect so much, because there's that resonance of, oh yes, this other feminine healing figure out in the community that can help me with this, and you have your area of expertise and I have mine, and another woman has hers, and if we connect, we're up leveling each other,
Yeah.
and that,
Yeah.
oh, I just got
Yeah.
goosebumps.
Every conversation we have, Abby, I feel that way every single time we speak.
Yes, I love
Mhm.
it. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for being here, Holly. This has been an absolute treat. I'm going to make sure that I have all of your links and contact info and everything linked below. And
Beautiful.
ladies, if this has been helpful, like, comment, share this with other women that you know that could benefit from this, because like I was saying, that's how we grow and improve as women. We
Mhm.
evolve together in community.
Yes.
So thank you so
Yeah.
much for
Thank you,
tuning
Abby.
in and being on the show.
It's been a pleasure. I appreciate you.